Picture this. You're a career soldier with no famous family name, no polished education, and absolutely no place in the fancy old boys club running the Roman Empire. But you do have one thing going for you. You're enormous. Like, legend-level enormous. And one day, Rome looks around at the chaos of empire and basically says, you know what we need? Not a diplomat. Not a philosopher. Not an administrator. We need the biggest guy in the room. So they make you emperor. And instead of stabilizing a stressed-out superpower with careful politics and a little charm, you do what you know. You march, you fight, you demand money, and you scare people. Today on Royal Idiots, we're talking about Maximinus Thrax, the giant soldier emperor whose rise marked a turning point for Rome, and whose decisions helped kick open the door to an era of military rule, rebellion, and instability. Welcome to Royal Idiots, the podcast where we explore the most powerful bad decisions in history. I'm Melissa, and today we're looking at the life of Maximinus Thrax, the emperor who proved that being terrifying on a battlefield is not the same thing as being good at running an empire. Before we get to our giant with a crown, we need to talk about the world he stepped into. This is the Roman Empire in the early 200s AD. From the outside, Rome still looks like Rome. Massive borders. Monumental cities. Legions everywhere. The brand is strong. But internally, the system is under strain. The empire is huge, which means it is expensive. The frontier is long, which means it needs constant defense. And the politics are, let's call them knife adjacent. Emperors don't exactly retire to a vineyard. They tend to die violently, get replaced quickly, and leave behind a court full of people pretending they didn't just bet on the wrong horse. And then there's the big issue. Who actually controls power? In theory, Rome still has the Senate. This old aristocratic institution that represents tradition, status, and the idea that Rome is governed by respectable men in respectable robes. In practice, the army is becoming the real decider. The legions are the ones with weapons, loyalty, and the ability to say, actually, we like this guy better, and make it true. That trend is going to explode in what historians call the crisis of the 3rd century, a long period where emperors rise and fall quickly, generals fight each other, the economy struggles, borders get pressured, and centralized authority starts to crack. Maximinus Thrax doesn't cause all of that by himself. But his reign is one of those moments where you can almost hear the gears grinding as Rome shifts from imperial politics to military roulette. So who is Maximinus Thrax? Even his name hints at the vibe. Thrax basically points to Thrace, a region north of Greece. Not Rome. Not Italy. Not the traditional power center. He's an outsider, and that matters. Some ancient sources portray him as coming from a very humble background, possibly even a shepherd before the army. Whether or not that's literally true, the larger point is clear: he didn't arrive through the normal aristocratic pipeline. And then there's the body. Maximinus is famous for his physical appearance. Ancient writers describe him as gigantic, a man who made other soldiers look small. Now, ancient writers also loved exaggeration, and they loved making political enemies sound like monsters. So take the exact details with caution. But it's pretty likely he was unusually large and unusually imposing. In a military culture, that is not a minor trait. It's a resume. You can imagine the scene. A recruit walks into camp, and suddenly everyone is whispering, "Have you seen that guy? The one who looks like he could bench press a horse." In the Roman army, where discipline and strength were prized, Maximinus rises. Not because he can charm senators at dinner parties, but because he's a soldier's soldier. Tough. Commanding. The kind of man who makes you stand a little straighter when he walks by. And here's the key detail to file away. Maximinus builds his identity around the army, not around Rome's political class. That choice is going to define everything. Now let's talk about how he actually becomes emperor, because this is where Rome's selection process starts looking less like governance and more like a workplace riot. The emperor before Maximinus is Severus Alexander. He's part of the Severan dynasty era, and he's not famous for being a terrifying warlord. In fact, he's often remembered as relatively mild, heavily influenced by his mother, and more inclined toward negotiation. And if you're a senator in Rome, you might think, great. We love mild. Mild doesn't kill us. But if you're a frontier soldier staring at threats and instability, you might think, mild? Are you kidding me? The army wants confidence, aggression, certainty. Most of all, they want a leader who feels like one of them. And in that environment, Maximinus becomes the obvious alternative. The troops elevate him. And when the army chooses, everyone else tends to find out afterward. This is the big shift. A man becomes emperor primarily because the soldiers want him, not because the Senate approves, not because he's from a prestigious family, not because he's a master of administration. It's the empire saying, the legions are hiring, and you're the candidate. And what happens to the previous emperor? He's killed. Because in Rome, transfer of power often came with a side of murder. So Maximinus is in charge. The first emperor of what many people think of as the soldier emperor era. A symbol of the army's rising dominance. And also, a warning sign, flashing in giant letters. If you are emperor now, your real constituency is not the Senate. It's the people holding swords. Okay. Maximinus has the throne. What does he do with it? He does what he knows. He focuses on the military. He campaigns constantly. He emphasizes discipline. He keeps the army busy. In his mind, this makes perfect sense. Rome is threatened, so Rome must fight. An emperor should act like a commander. And to be fair, there's a logic there. But running an empire isn't only about winning battles. It's also about maintaining the delicate, annoying, absolutely essential web of support that keeps the state functioning. You need money. You need cooperation. You need legitimacy. You need the Senate not actively plotting your end. You need cities paying taxes without feeling like they're being squeezed dry. And you need soldiers to feel loyal without constantly having to buy their loyalty at higher and higher prices. Maximinus's big mistake is that he leans so hard into the army emperor identity that he neglects almost every other part of the job. Let's make it concrete. He sidelines the Senate. Now, was the Senate already weakened? Yes. Did it still matter? Also yes. It mattered because the Senate represented the old Roman idea of legitimacy. It mattered because senators controlled wealth, networks, and the administrative experience needed to keep the machine running. And it mattered because when you snub proud elites, they don't just shrug. They start looking for a knife. Maximinus also isn't exactly hanging out in Rome trying to smooth things over. He spends a lot of time away from the capital, near the frontiers, campaigning. So imagine you're a senator. You're in Rome, trying to keep the empire calm, and the emperor is nowhere near the city, doesn't consult you, doesn't care about your traditions, and is basically a walking reminder that the army can replace you and your whole class whenever it feels like it. Not exactly a recipe for harmony. And then we get to the other major issue, money. Constant campaigning is expensive. Soldiers need pay. They need supplies. They want bonuses. Fortifications need building. Roads need maintenance. War costs. So how do you fund it? Taxes. And not gentle, well-paced. We're all in this together taxes. Heavy taxation. The kind that makes people feel like the empire is eating them alive. This is where you can almost hear ordinary provincials saying, wait, we're paying for what now? Another campaign. Another bonus. Another round of please don't mutiny money. The irony is that Maximinus relies on the army for power, and to keep that power he has to keep the army happy, and to keep the army happy he has to extract more from everyone else, which makes everyone else hate him, which forces him to rely on the army even more. It's a doom loop. And this brings us to the defining idiotic moment of Maximinus Thrax's reign. He governs like the empire is a permanent military camp, and he treats political legitimacy like it's optional. Instead of building alliances with Rome's elites, instead of balancing the needs of civilians and provinces, instead of calming a stressed economy, he doubles down on intimidation and extraction. He is, in essence, trying to run the Roman Empire like a battlefield. And that's great if you're conquering a hill. It's not great if you're trying to manage the world's largest bureaucracy, tax base, and political ecosystem. Because here's the thing about fear. It works until the moment it doesn't. And when it stops working, you don't get mild dissatisfaction. You get revolt. Unsurprisingly, The consequences hit fast and they hit hard. As pressure rises, opposition grows. And it doesn't just grow in one place. Revolts break out across the empire. Different groups and regions begin to push back, and the Senate, remember them, the people who do not enjoy being sidelined, becomes a focal point for resistance. The political center starts looking for alternatives. People start backing rival emperors. The idea that Maximinus is the inevitable ruler begins to crack. And when you're ruling an empire where the army decides who sits on the throne, the most dangerous moment is when the army senses you might not be the safe bet anymore. Because soldiers are loyal, but they're also practical. They want stability. They want pay. They want a leader who can keep them alive and keep the system working. If your leadership starts producing chaos and uncertainty, your biggest supporters start doing the math. Maximinus tries to crush opposition like it's just another enemy force. He moves with the mindset of a commander. March toward the problem, overwhelm it, show strength. But the problem isn't a single army on an open field. It's the empire destabilizing. It's politics. It's money. It's legitimacy. It's 1,000 different people in 1,000 different places deciding they'd rather gamble on someone else. And that is not something you can intimidate into permanence. Eventually, Maximinus is killed by his own troops. That ending tells you everything. He rose on military support, and he died when that support evaporated. The same mechanism that lifted him up also made his position inherently fragile. When emperors are chosen by legions, emperors can be chosen by legions. It's like being hired by a committee that can also fire you on the spot, with spears. So what's the legacy of Maximinus Thrax? If you're looking for a single man who ruined Rome, he's not it. Rome's problems were bigger than one emperor. But Maximinus matters because he represents a pivot. He is a vivid example of what happens when military power becomes the primary source of political authority. After him, the pattern gets worse. More short reigns, more usurpers, more civil conflict, more pressure on the economy, and more instability across borders. History often talks about the crisis of the 3rd century as this chaotic era where emperors come and go rapidly, and the empire feels like it's constantly on the brink. Maximinus doesn't start that crisis out of nowhere, but his reign showcases the ingredients: an emperor elevated by the army, traditional institutions sidelined, high military spending, heavy taxation, widespread discontent, rebellions, and, eventually, assassination. He's also a reminder that outsider doesn't automatically mean reformer. It can mean someone with a completely different power base and a completely different skill set. Maximinus brought battlefield competence to a political role that demanded coalition building and finesse. And Rome learned, painfully, that being able to win a fight is not the same thing as being able to run a state. So where does Maximinus land on the royal idiot scale? Let's lay out the case. On the one hand, you can argue he's a product of his environment. The empire is unstable. External threats are real. The army wants a warrior leader. Maximinus gives them that. And he's not idiotic in the sense of being lazy or oblivious. He's active. He's decisive. He's committed. But the scale isn't about effort. It's about judgment. Maximinus makes a classic ruler mistake. He assumes the thing that got him power is the only thing he needs to keep it. That's how you end up governing a complex empire as if it's a single military campaign. He fails to build legitimacy beyond the legions. He alienates the Senate and elites. He funds his strategy through punishing extraction. And he creates the conditions where rebellions multiply and his own foundation, army support, becomes unstable. And in the end, the troops do what Roman troops often did when they stopped believing. They kill the emperor. So on the royal idiot scale, Maximinus Thrax earns a solid royal disaster. Not because he was the dumbest man in Rome, but because he tried to rule an empire with the wrong toolkit, and he doubled down even as the consequences piled up. That's it for today's episode of Royal Idiots. Next time, we'll explore Galba, the first of the 4 emperors to succeed Nero. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and share it with a fellow history fan. And the next time you hear someone say, "We just need a strong leader," feel free to ask, strong at what, exactly?